We are fortunate to have Irene Mwatha from GIZ, technical advisor. Please come. Or Irene, please come up on the stage. A round of applause for her as she comes up. This conversation is a donors conversation, the role of donors in supporting SME growth. And you're the first panel that I'll not rush. So you have a bit of time. Yes, and we can take some questions, so Slido will be set up. However, I do want to give guys an opportunity to also visit the booths, to give Meta some time to take some data from you. So we won't have an hour, but we'll give you enough time. Ladies and gentlemen, are donors useful to us? We shall find out. Give them a round of applause as they go into the conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for giving us an opportunity to have a conversation right here in front of you. And I think, as Amani has said, we shall be taking questions from you so that we can be able to make this as engaging as possible. We have a bit of time, so we'll enjoy it, we'll lean into it, and I have an amazing two people to talk to, and I have had the privilege of working with both of them from a long time. I've known Mokeira for, well, a little over 10 years, and you have seen the research she has presented. She has a deep wealth of experience in gleaning information and getting data to make sense to us. And looking at the things that were presented about COVID-19, it resonates a lot with the experience that we have had at Wylde International as we have worked with SMEs. And we'll get into that. I've had the privilege of working with Irene for 1 year now, in a program that Wylde has run in partnership with GIZ, which we call Bridging Access, which really has to do with helping SMEs and helping micro businesses to become formal. So looking at that research, moving from the informality to the formality, and in a sense answering the question that that Mokeira put, which is SMEs want to expand their businesses. And so in that particular program, we're talking about what is the missing link, the strategy of how to expand your business from where you are to the next level while formalizing it. And so it sets the background and the backdrop for us to have this conversation around what are donors, family foundations, corporate foundations, NGOs doing to support SMEs, to support micro businesses. And so let me invite, to start with, Irene to give us an introduction to herself and to the organization that she represents, and just begin by telling us a quick background of what you guys are doing for SMEs in this country.
Thank you, Chris. So as you've heard, my name is Irene Mwatha. I work for GIZ on several programs. Chris has mentioned we are running one with Wylde International. So GIZ, maybe I just talk a little bit about GIZ. Is a Germany-owned federal enterprise. And what we do at GIZ is we support the German government and other donors to implement international cooperation projects and also enhance technical support in various countries across the world. And for here in Kenya, we call it GIZ Kenya. And our projects are widespread across almost all the counties in Kenya. We work with partners, of course, Wylde. We work with different levels of partners. We classify them as micro, meso actors, and at macro level. So at the micro level, we work with SMEs directly, like what we are doing with Wylde, supporting SMEs directly. At the meso actors level, we work with BMOs, the BDSs, and even financial institutions who are offering, those are basically actors who are offering different services to MSMEs. And then at the macro level, we work with government ministries, both at the national and the county level, because that's the level at which we set strategy and methodology of working with SMEs. So I think that's it for now, Chris.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Let me invite Mokeira to also just introduce herself. I think very little has been said about you, and we have seen the research that you have presented. But I think what I'd like to just hear as you introduce yourself is why this research?
Okay. Thank you, Chris. So I'm Mokeira Masita. I'm a founder and CEO of Research Plus, and Research Plus is a specialized research organization. We are headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, but we work across Africa. And what we do is really to support those who want to tap into the research industry to be able to do that. We try to fill critical gaps, information gaps, that are necessary for people doing very different interventions across many different sectors, because data and insights should be part and parcel of everything that we do. So we are all about promoting evidence-based practice, and also have various activities that help really take research in Africa to greater heights. So be it, building capacity on how people can conduct or engage with research and data. That's something that we do. If it's, getting people in a room to have a conversation on findings from a particular survey or study, we do that through research forums and really helping demystify what research is. We've definitely come a long way. If I think back to about 18 years ago when I started out in the industry, we've definitely made great strides. We definitely have many more qualified professional researchers at different levels who are able to support and provide the technical expertise that is needed. The infrastructure has also opened up a bit. Funding has improved. There's still room for improvement, obviously, for research. But yes, so that's what we are about. We are really here to provide that support in terms of evidence. This particular study was a long time coming. Like I mentioned, 2016 is the last time we had maybe anything massive in terms of a study that is specifically looking at MSMEs across Kenya. And so between then and now, definitely there have been some smaller focused studies, but then nothing of this scale, where you're talking to 8,000 businesses across the country. And also one other thing that I did not mention, this is a longitudinal study. So this year we're going back to do another wave. So we have that panel of businesses, and so we'll be tracking them possibly even over 6 years, just to see what is changing, what is shifting, how are they evolving, is the support that they're getting making a difference for them, and we'll be able to see how they grow and change over the 6 years. So that's an exciting space to watch. The idea really is to provide this information to the different stakeholders who need it for programming, for the different support and services that have been talked about here already today. Something needs to inform that. So these kinds of studies are really there to provide that, the support that is needed, the information. So it's all about evidence. It's not a gut feeling. It's not, I think we should do this. It's, you need to bring the receipts, right? Yeah, so that's what this study is all about.
All right, so that sets the framework for sort of like the conversation we are having, which is we see the research, we are talking about SMEs, we're talking about MSMEs, and we're talking about providing them with support. And Irene, this is where you come in. And the question is, this research, and not so much just the research, but why is it that we have a lot of donors and a lot of non-profits and non-governmental organizations coming into this space and saying, we see what's happening within the MSME sector and we want to take part. We want to help. What's driving that? Where are they coming from?
Thanks, Chris, for the question. And I think you've answered it before you asked, because you said the donors are seeing the need, what needs to be done here. And that's why we are so many, and I hope we are making impact. At GIZ, when it comes to SMEs, really job creation for youth and entrepreneurship development is our organizing framework, and especially for the project in charge of. What our interest in SMEs, it's well aligned with the government agenda. How we do this? We align ourselves very well with government. We look at what is the government agenda, what does the government want to see as far as SME development and growth is concerned. And we start at that point, whereby at that high level, there's a number of forums and discussions which go around before even we design anything to do with initiative for support. And so, and on the same breath, we appreciate that SMEs, and someone earlier said that initially we used to say agriculture is the backbone of our economy. But even when we look at the studies right now, the reports from KNBS, it really shows that the private sector is the private sector and MSMEs per se, they are the driving force for the growth of our economy. And that's why there is a lot of interest for donors. Probably what I could say is, and from where you're seated and your role in this would be really championing to ensure that the initiatives which donors are bringing on board are actually addressing the challenges on the ground. And how can you do that? There are forums which are organized to discuss these issues, and you find that people, SMEs, don't show up. Even BMOs, even the various actors in the ecosystem don't show up. So actually our role should be showing up in these forums and making the government and the donors understand and articulate our issues very clearly to ensure the initiatives which come out of those discussions are actually aligned. And these forums are held at various levels. At that very high level where the government discusses with the donors and stuff like that, and then we get those approvals to do projects. But when it comes to the implementation and actually designing the program, we normally call for forums. If it's a program targeting MSMEs, for instance, we have forums whereby we call MSMEs to come and discuss what are the challenges you're facing, how do you think we should support you in addressing this. And when you have those forums and then the MSMEs are not showing up, or they are showing up and really not articulating the issue, at the end of it, we don't get to have the kind of impact we are looking for. So our call is, let's be at the driving seat. Let's dictate how this game is played. I think that's how we can benefit from the donor support.
I want to take something right from your mouth. You talked about the kind of impact we are looking for. What kind of impact is this? What are you looking for?
As far as SMEs are concerned, we are looking for growth. What we want is to see MSMEs unlocking their growth potential and creating the kind of decent jobs for the youth. From the study which she presented, we have seen that majority of SMEs are micro, actually. Majority of the businesses are micro, and they only employ one or two. And some time back, I looked at the MSME survey report of 2016, and it was the same story, that the micros, most of the businesses in Kenya, they only employ one person. today is like 5 years now, we are still talking about the same story of employing one person. That is the kind of change we want to change that story. We want to see the growth, and we want, because the white collar jobs are normal, you know, but if we work smart in growing our businesses, we are gonna see this change we are all looking for. Having businesses grow and creating more than 1 or 2 jobs for the youth, for the many youths who are coming from school and into the job market. So I would say,
good.
Broadly, that's the kind of change we're looking at.
All right, very good. So that's the kind of change we're looking for. We're looking for opportunities where businesses can grow. We are looking to have these businesses achieve their own aspirations. So there's also like some convergence where businesses are saying, I want to grow my businesses. The donors are saying, we are here to help you grow your businesses. Mokeira, is this sustainable in terms of, can we expect to see more donors coming into the space, or are they going to fizzle out?
Yeah, so sustainability is a question that we face all the time. You know, there are different phases of research. There's research where we're doing evaluations, we're looking at programs and things that have been running, and we're trying to see, have they had the impact? You know, what are the learnings that can be carried on forward? And one of the questions that we always grapple with is sustainability. So that's something that is definitely a very critical question. I would say it would be sustainable if we invested more in the evidence, in doing the research, because then we are providing that if the donors fund studies such as this, and just to mention that this particular study was funded by the MasterCard Foundation, if donors fund studies like this and make the information available. So Irene has talked about, you know, you have forums like this, the stakeholders, the people in the ecosystem don't show up, or a study is done and somebody hoards the findings, it's not available to be shared. So then it's not very useful for the people in the space. But then investing in doing those studies, investing in how those are disseminated and get to the people who need this information, including the MSMEs themselves, is critical, because then if they achieve that growth, they also get to a point where they start to invest in that research themselves. There was talk about Coca-Cola earlier this morning, where they started, you know, selling 25 bottles. Look at Coca-Cola now. I can tell you for a fact that Coca-Cola invests heavily in research. The return on investment in research is huge. I promise you. You can take that to the bank. So, and research is not something that you do as a one-off. So it's very right when you say sustainability. It's not something that you will do once and say, oh great, we're done. It's something that you'll have to continue doing. The more we innovate, the more we create, we still need to keep on knowing. And so that's something that needs to be imparted to the businesses themselves, so that then they can invest in it themselves, because they will have a return on it. So they don't always have to look to the donors to say, give us the information, give us the data, give us the stats. The associations that we are talking about, there's collaboration that needs to happen. I don't have to pay for the piece of research myself as you know, a business in a particular sector. We can collaborate, you know, pool our resources and do the research, and it's helpful for all of us round. So there are different things that you can do to make this sustainable, but part and parcel of this has to be building the capacity of the businesses to appreciate how to engage with data and insights, and also to invest in it themselves.
All right. So earlier, there was a panel that was talking about receiving grant funding, okay? And that's one of the things that we can expect donors to do, give businesses grant funding. Now, Irene, how can you respond to that? Because one of the gentlemen said grant funding distorts your business because it makes you more donor focused, it makes you more impact driven, it gives you all these soft things, you know. Now you want to create jobs, not necessarily serve customers. would you say that it's true, or would you say the converse is true?
Thanks, Chris. There is a lady who said grants is lazy money.
Yeah.
I
That's what
partly
she said,
agree.
lazy money.
I partly agree. And first, let me just backtrack to the issue of sustainability. It's a very important subject when it comes to project design by donors. And when I was talking about championing what we want as SMEs, even as you articulate your issues, look forward. Like, once this donor leaves or this project leaves, how will it leave me? Will I be sustainably? Will I continue being good sustainably after they leave? So it's a very important question. At GIZ, we really insist on that. And linking that to the issue of grant, let me tailor it to access to finance, because we have a strong component on supporting SMEs to access finance. And how we do it, and especially in the project I administer, we don't do grants, because we have that perception, because of the same perception of grant is lazy money. What we do is we want to equip the SME with what he or she needs to sustainably access finance even after the project ends. And how we do this is capacity building. And for the kind of SMEs we are working with, they are the shy ones, the small, the very micro, someone who has never even accessed finance before. So, and they are the majority in our midst. So how we go about it, we start from the basics. Someone earlier talked about record keeping, supporting them to have that capacity and to know how to arrange their books. And we move with them from that stage to the next stage of organizing a forum like this, where there are financial institutions, banks, all sorts of financiers, venture capital, bank circles, whoever. We have a forum like, we bring them together, whereby the SMEs are able to present their businesses, to do the pitches. And that first contact is very important. And some of the feedback we get from SMEs are really amazing. Like, I've never done that before, you know? And we move from there with them to even hand-holding them and having them get the special attaching them to a special expertise to help them apply for loans. From those pitches, we get some interest and we help them go through the application. So that's what we are doing, and why we are doing that is because we are looking at the sustainability side of it. We don't want to give grants whereby they may not achieve the kind of impact we want. And of course, saying that, GIZ also has other programs which do grants, but it's a blend. So when it comes to sustainability and access to finance, that's how we look at it at GIZ.
All right. Yeah. Mokeira, you look like you have something to say.
Yes, I would just like to add on to that. I would go with more of a blended approach. You know, I wouldn't, just 100% demonize, grants, but then how it's done. How about doing grants where it's not just giving money to the MSMEs, but it's, let's spend this money to help you get your information right. Do your research about this business. So many businesses are starting without the facts, without the information. How about we provide that support or some expertise for someone to handhold you to do that research, and then that way, when you walk up to the bank, you have your facts right. Your collateral is your research, You're talking and they're nodding their heads and they're saying, yeah, we can see the sense in that. Yeah. So I think a blended approach would work. Definitely not just dishing out money without some level of responsibility and hand-holding. And I think the panel that was here talked about it as well, where there are programs where businesses are getting financing, but then they're also being handheld in terms of, the training and building their capacity to be able to use those finances well. So I would say let's do more of a blended approach, and let's see where exactly the grants make sense, and we're building the capacity of the businesses.
All right, very good. So we did say that we are going to bring in the audience, and so technical team, do we have any questions on Slido? Or is there a roving mic? Slido? No roving mic. Aya, sawa basi. Mkubwa amesema. Any questions on Slido? No questions on Slido. They're coming. All right. Some of us get tempted to fill silence with words.
Please project the full question. What are the donors or other sponsoring African entrepreneurs or others sponsoring African entrepreneurships doing to avoid the hijacking of African solutions, which end up being presented to donors
as donor solutions?
As donor solutions, yes.
Okay, all right. So, Irene, I think that question you can take and attempt to answer. This is why you say, that's a very good question.
Let me start by saying that's a very good question. The way I understand the question, I would respond this way. I wouldn't think.
I think the frame. Let me try and frame it and read the mind of the the questioner. It's, I have this idea. I've come into the donor program, and obviously, as Mokeira said, research and data is very important. So we've been asked to say our name, our business idea, our business model. We have pitched it, and then we have been accepted into the program, and then we have, the donor has run the program, and they've come back later to check how well the program was running. And as Mokeira also showed, there's a picture of a border guy, and so the donor says, we helped this border guy to succeed, and yet the idea belonged to the border guy. It was my idea. You guys came and helped me to succeed, but when you leave and go back to your country, it appears as if the success belongs to you. I'm no longer the person who has succeeded. I'm not the one being celebrated, but you are being celebrated because your program helped me to succeed. But my effort in getting to succeed wasn't there, or is not acknowledged.
Okay, I get it now, but I wouldn't quite agree, because when you look at the donor, the objective of the donor is to see that impact, is to see that entrepreneur grow. So on the donor side, once the impact is achieved, I mean, it's only fair for him or her to brag a bit and say, and even put maybe in their magazines and stuff like that, success stories, this was our SME, we supported in this and this. But really, if it was an innovation, it still retains, there is no, what do you call it, the right?
There's no, we are not taking over your innovation.
We are not taking over your innovation or right to your whatever you have invented. We are only celebrating and joining you to celebrate the success you have achieved. And I would really feel sorry if there is there is overstepping in the process of celebrating the success. And for, when I speak for GIZ, at GIZ, even when we go to collecting information, when we are doing our M&E on the projects we have done, it's normally very categorical, the kind of data we collect and why we collect it. And from the beginning and even the design of the program, it's normally very clear on the issues of reporting and issues to do with the M&E. So, yeah, I would say if it's happening, then probably it shouldn't be happening.
All right, okay, very good. Do we have another question? We're done? Okay. All right, so if there's no other question, let me take some closing remarks from my panelists, because I can see Amani is standing here, and I don't want my microphone to go off by mistake. It won't. All right, okay. So let's start with you, Mokeira. Give us some closing remarks and marching orders for our entrepreneurs today.
Yeah, I will always sound like a broken record. Evidence. We must really build that muscle where we are, building evidence-based practice. We are, taking data-driven decisions. And so we need to invest a lot more in research. Not necessarily just always waiting for the donors. There's things that we can do ourselves. And also just remembering that if you want to pursue a certain agenda, then it helps when you're actually paying for it as well. Because, whoever is paying for a certain study then also has a certain agenda that they're interested in, and nothing wrong with that, because they are paying for it. So it would be really a fresh breath of air to see much more local investment in research. The return on it is really absolutely fantastic. So I think I would encourage us to really start to build that muscle and see more and more people investing in research. And just for the donors, because specifically this was a conversation around donors and what they can do, I would like to see also on the donor front more investment. So for example, even within programs themselves, when money is given for a particular program, there's some proportions that are given in terms of, 65% of it might go to the programming itself, a certain proportion to administration, and then the monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which is a component of research, typically gets 6 to 7%. That's quite little if you're saying, that research is everything, evidence is everything, and then you're only allocating 6 to 7% to that. So I would like to see, a recalibration of those figures where we begin to give research, more space. We begin to give research center stage. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Mokeira. Irene?
Okay, yeah, so my parting shot is, let me say, yesterday I happened to listen to a discussion which was like forward-looking in terms of where are we going and what are we looking at when it comes to supporting SMEs. And broadly, there was this kind of a theme of we want growth for SME, which is just, green because of that. Climate change is big and also sustainable. So probably going forward and projects from donors like GIZ and the rest may be more aligned to those big words. But most important, as I said earlier for us, is to ensure the support as it's coming to address our needs. Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Irene. Thank you very much, Mokeira. We really, really appreciate your wisdom and your ideas.